gaming news never stops, and neither do we, which is why we're here talking about 5 big things that happened last week. We're going to be covering a major story about Call of Duty and its 2021 title. We're going to be talking about 343 Industries and not Halo Infinite, but a whole new title. And I am going to get into my takeaways from the Steam Game Festival because it was a major event. There was a ton of titles and demos, and we need to talk about what went down. Plus, there's a ton of different releases that happened last week that we would be sad to death if we didn't cover it. So, these are the 5 things that happened last week. Let's get into it. Call of Duty has been releasing titles every single year since 2005. Let that sink in for a second. They've been doing this for 15 years. It is an insane amount of time for anything, and especially for a video game, because it really exemplifies success. It exemplifies something that works, a formula that has been put into effect for quite a while at this point, and studios that really just know what they're doing. And in 2021, that streak is not going to break. In fact, it is going to take on a whole new layer and a whole new level of success, or that is what the CFO of Activision Blizzard is anticipating. In a statement last week during an earnings call, Dennis Durkin described this as another strong premium release, which is just layman's terms for he expects his title to make quite a bit of money like its predecessors, which no doubt it definitely will. Now, what do we know about this title? Call of Duty has been going through a little bit of an uncertain flux in terms of who is making these games in the last several years. In fact, Sledgehammer was supposed to make last year's title, Call of Duty Cold War. However, they were taken off that project due to quite a few issues within their studio. Now, apparently, those issues have been resolved because in a tweet that was actually sent out as I was getting ready to film, Modern Warzone said in a statement that this game would be made by Sledgehammer. Now, they said it was not confirmed at this point. However, they had heard from several sources that had been confirmed by other sources, which makes you think that this is something that is definitely going to be happening, and it will be revealed soon. At least that is what we anticipate at this moment. Now, let's take a moment to look back at Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer's last title was actually Call of Duty World War II. We could be taking a step back and going once more to World War II. And why do we say this? Because the last 2 years have been basically soft reboots of games that have been previously released in the Call of Duty world. You have Modern Warfare being a reboot, fittingly, of Modern Warfare. You have Call of Duty Cold War being a soft reboot of Call of Duty Black Ops. Now, why would this game be any different than that, just with that trend in effect? Why would you not have Sledgehammer revisit World War II, a game they have already made, a game they are already familiar with, and also be a soft reboot of potentially the original Call of Duties, the Call of Duties that got this whole franchise started, maybe even Big Red 1. That would be an incredible opportunity to revisit. Now, none of this is confirmed at this point, and we really don't have any strong direction of where this game will be going. However, given Sledgehammer's tumultuous history at this point, it would make a lot of sense for them to revisit something that they know, something that they are familiar with. And they are going to be having a lot of support. Now, it is said that pretty much every single other studio that is involved with Call of Duty will be in a support role for Sledgehammer. You have Beenox, you have Raven Software, potentially even the larger studios in Infinity Ward and Treyarch. However, that is somewhat unlikely given that they are most likely shifting onto the titles that are going to be releasing in 2022 and 2023. Now, that is all we know at this point. We don't have anything about a release date, even though he did say Q4. That's a very broad spectrum. We would anticipate the game to release in either late October or early November of this year. And we don't know anything about multiplayer. We don't know anything about Warzone, even though we can really anticipate that Warzone is going to be part of Call of Duty for quite a while at this point. It no doubt is going to continue to be a part of this franchise until Battle Royale becomes unpopular in the gaming world, because at this point, it shows no sign of slowing down anywhere. Now, that's all we know at this point. However, I would expect Call of Duty and Activision to really be revealing a lot more about this title in the late spring to early summer of this year. So until then, let's kind of look at what Sledgehammer could do, think about the possibilities, and enjoy Cold War up to that point. And that is number 5. Halo Infinite may have been delayed all the way to the fall of this year, with rumors swirling that it's going to be pushed back all the way into 2022, rumors that have been denied by 343 Industries at this point. The developer could be looking forward. The developer could be looking all the way past Halo Infinite, because a job posting that appeared on Microsoft's career page on February 6th recently said that they are looking for a producer to help develop brand new projects within the Halo universe. The job posting specifically asked for experience in AAA titles, really narrowing down the fact that they are going to be developing a game. It couldn't be anything else at this point just because of that terminology. And while we really don't have any clear idea of what they could be making, there was a tweet back in November that has been taken down since that said that Halo Wars 3 and a spin-off for Halo 5's Fireteam series was being planned. And while we don't know if those plans have come to fruition, and we don't know if this is connected to that, we could fairly assume that one of those two projects could be what this job posting is geared towards. Now, as I said, take it with a grain of salt, but this job posting does not leave much to the imagination. In fact, it really spells it all out in the description itself. It says specifically, they are looking for a producer for a new Halo project. I mean, you really couldn't make it any more black and white. So with that in mind, we can really anticipate there is going to be more Halo games on the horizon. When we'll see them, when we'll hear more about them, it's probably not going to be for a while, but it's nice to see that they are definitely going to be part of the Xbox release calendar moving forward. And that is number 4. When something's delayed indefinitely, it's a terrifying thing to hear. It means that we're never going to see it again, it's never going to come out, but that is actually not the case. When a game is delayed indefinitely, it usually means it's on its second or third delay, and it means that the developer just doesn't want to get fans' hopes up anymore. It means that they pushed it back a couple times, they've gotten the backlash, they're tired of hearing fans say that you keep pushing it back, that you keep missing your release date, so they say, you know what, we're not going to give you any more release dates till we're completely ready. With Ubisoft's The Sands of Time remake, it makes a lot of sense that they would go this route, because the game was originally set for a January release in this year, and then it was pushed back to March. The March release date is only a couple weeks away at this point, but Ubisoft has released a statement on Twitter saying that they are going to be delaying the game once more. They're going to be delaying it indefinitely. But that doesn't mean we're not going to see the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake this year. In fact, I would wager that we will see this game by the Q4 of 2021. Now, what does that mean for us? It just means that Ubisoft is really trying to polish all the different bugs within the title and really make sure that this game is ready to go on launch. They don't want to release something that has flaws within it, that has a lot of game-breaking bugs. This is a trend that a lot of different developers have been taking, especially since Cyberpunk 2077 was released last year. It's just developers want to make sure that their product is ready to go. And with a game and a franchise like Prince of Persia, it makes a lot of sense. This franchise has been dormant in the gaming world since 2008, which is more than a decade at this point. So it makes sense, especially with rumors swirling that another game, not a reboot, a brand new title, is also in the works, set to release in 2023 or 2024. So with a franchise that is trying to reassert itself in the gaming world, that is trying to push forward and release more titles down the road, you would really want to land with both feet on the ground and push forward and make something that fans are really going to enjoy and really want to play from day one. So it makes a lot of sense. I wouldn't get too worked up over the whole indefinite terminology. I would just take it with a grain of salt, move forward, and look forward to this game most likely in the Q4 of this year. And that is number 3. Let's take a journey, shall we? The Steam Game Festival launched last week and it lasted for 6 whole days. And it really got to showcase just how talented so many different indie developers are. There's a couple different takeaways that I want to talk about. There's 4 different demos that I was very excited to see there. I got the chance to play them and they were just really well made. All of the links are going to be below if you want to check them out. But we're going to head straight into it talking about Little Nightmares 2. Tarsier Studios has a very amazing horror franchise built within Little Nightmares, with the original game being released back in 2017. It's a puzzle-solving game with a very gritty feel and a very horror-driven vibe to it. The sequel finally had its demo at the event for everyone to be able to play, and while it was a very short demo, it really highlighted a lot of the original game's mechanics and art style and feel, and then integrated it into a whole new environment with a lot more gameplay focused on teamwork. It was very exciting to see it there, and while, as I said, it was a short demo, it definitely stole the spotlight and really focused on that horror vibe. Which takes us into the horror genre itself. Now, usually at indie game festivals, horror games are very present. In fact, they dominate these events usually. They have tons of different games that are being debuted and revealed, and it's a really exciting thing to see. But this year, that was not the case. In fact, at the Steam Game Festival, it seemed like the horror genre was somewhat lacking. Now, this is to no fault of any developer, of course. However, it was somewhat surprising to see that it did not have as strong a presence as it usually did. There was a ton of different games and a ton of other different genres. However, this one seemed to be not quite as full as it usually is. Now, that's not to say that there were no impressive games in that category. You have, of course, Little Nightmares 2, but there was one other game within that genre that I did want to touch on. I am talking about Happy Game. Now, it does not sound like a horror game, but it definitely captures the essence of what an indie horror game should be. Now, it's developed by Amanita Design, and a boy falls asleep and has a knife. That's the story, that's the plot, and all kinds of chaos ensues. There's an insane amount of just horrific things that occur after that. It's a very well-made, well-crafted game that really takes you exactly where you want to go if you're a horror fan. Now, past that, I really want to touch on two different platformers and two RPGs that really popped out to me because they had so much different things going for them. The first one I'm going to tackle is the RPGs. Now, the first RPG I want to talk about is Trails of Aosh. It's an original concept idea. It's about pre-Columbian North America focused on the Native Americans, and it mixes myth with actual historic fact. It's a very well-crafted, beautifully made game that works with an Unreal Engine. It was a really interesting game to play, and it really explores a concept that is not really touched on by a lot of developers. The next one I wanted to talk about was Frozen Flame. Now, it's developed by Dreamside Interactive, and it's an epic sandbox RPG set in a beautiful fantasy world. Now, it's reminiscent of Breath of the Wild in its art style, and it keeps with that standard of AAA brilliance where it just really has this expansive open world, and it's really well made, and it really popped out in that way to me. Those were the two RPGs that really stood out to me and that really showcased these brilliant styles and brilliant ideas. But there's two platformers that I also wanted to talk about. Now, the first of those platformers I want to touch on is Foregone. Now, it's developed by Big Blue Bubble, and the reason it really stood out above the others is it has a beautiful retro feel, reminiscent of the N64 fighting games, and almost has this like Ninja Turtles meets Bugs Bunny Birthday Bash, and it's really refreshing to see it because a lot of games really embrace a more modern-esque feel. However, this game really fixes on a pixelated version of itself, and it really just embraces that, delivering something that is both retro and smooth and crisp and amazing to play all at once, and it's really great to see that in an indie game. Now, the other things that really popped out to me was the smooth fighting mechanics, and there's an amazing skills tree and inventory system within the game itself that is really exciting to see, that really adds that depth to that platform. The next title I wanted to talk about was Unbound Worlds Apart. Now, I've talked about this game before. I had an interview with the developers last week. That interview is actually on Weekly Rewind, and I have the full interview on my channel. If you want to check those out, both of those links are below. However, this game has so much going for it. It has a beautiful art style. It has an amazing gameplay mechanics to it. It has so many different concepts that are fresh and original and something that you can only find within this title. So it's something that really popped out above the rest and stood on its own as something that is definitely worth playing. But that is all about the indie devs. That is the Steam Game Festival. And that is number 2. Now we get into the releases that happened last week. And as always, there was a bunch of different ones. Now, I'm not going to be able to touch on all of them, but I am going to have a link below for all of the games that I wasn't able to get to. It's got a bunch of different indie games, a bunch of different smaller titles that are really worth checking out. However, the titles that I am going to touch on lead off with Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. Now, it's made by French-based developer Cyanide Studios and it released to all platforms on February 4th. The game is based off the original tabletop RPG and it's part of the larger World of the Darkness series, which is a tabletop game series definitely worth checking out, which is why I have the link below for you to check it out. The game is a single-player third-person action RPG where players can utilize a shape-shifting mechanic to change forms from a wolf to a human to a werewolf. Now, that is a crazy fun mechanic. It has a whole bunch of different possibilities within the game itself, and it's really exciting to see how it's going to be utilized within the game. Now, the next title is Control. Control released back in August of 2019 to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It was made by Remedy Entertainment, and then it released in October of 2020 to Switch. Now it is releasing to PS5 and Xbox Series X. It released on February 2nd last week, and I'm sure everybody who's excited about this game when it released back in 2019 can't wait to get their hands on it for these next-gen consoles. The final game, however, that I am going to be touching on is Blue Fire. Now, Blue Fire is made by Roby Studios. It released on February 4th to Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. It's an indie-developed adventure fighting platformer set in this beautiful, vibrant world. The game is currently 10% off on Steam, and as I said, it's an amazing looking title with this rich artwork and this immersive story to it. I would definitely recommend taking advantage of that discount, going to Steam, downloading it, and getting into it immediately. That is all of the games that released last week and all of the news that happened last week. There was a lot of different things to get into, and I can't wait for what next week has in store. If there's anything you want me to touch on, if there's anything I missed, if there's anything you have an opinion on, definitely let me know in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys, as always. That never changes from week to week. But until next week, I am Nick Later. This is the Weekly Rewind, and I will see y'all next time. Take it easy.